Hello and welcome to another episode of For the Love of Sports. My name is Michael Rasile, and this is the show where we get to talk about sports, we get to talk about business, and we get to talk about everything in between. However you're listening, you know what you need to do. If you're on YouTube, click like, click subscribe, leave a comment. If you're on Spotify, we got video Spotify, just me and Joe Rogan. Make sure to give a 5-star review, and obviously Apple as well, 5-star review. Tell me some nice things. Tell me how great Scott was, because Scott is my incredible guest today. I have Scott Perillo. He's the VP of Marketing at UCAN. Scott, how's it going today, man?
That's fantastic. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Please, the pleasure's all mine. This is a show I get to have fun talking to people who are just super passionate about things. And they're like, yeah, sure, I'll give you 30 minutes to ask me all the questions you want. That's like, it's my dream, man. It's my dream. I love a good conversation. I'm pretty sure we're going to have it. And we're going to start it off like we start off every conversation here. Scott, you know the question. Everybody knows the question at this point. Why do you love sports so much?
I mean, what's not to love? I would say there are two things that nothing else can top, and clearly the media world's recognizing that. Amazon's recognizing that. Apple's app recognizing that. It's the live entertainment aspect that is an outlet for so many things. It's an outlet for my competitiveness. You know, as a father of two in my 40s with a demanding job, you know, to take that time on a Sunday to watch my Patriots. I think you're from Jersey, right? So
I might be.
might rub you a little bit.
No, 18-0. Oh, I'm sorry. Anyway, keep going. I apologize.
Yeah. Hey, that's okay.
Hey, we've both won. You've won a Super Bowl. We both won a Super Bowl since then. Doesn't really matter at this point. It's too long ago anyway.
So there's that outlet for me. There's, you know, in business, I try to be pretty even keeled and data driven, and given my background, as you may have seen, like I'm an analytical guy, try to keep things in, you know, data driven. That's certainly a way for me to, you know, express emotion and have fun, enjoying a game, and just break away from the work life balance kind of thing. And then I think the other side of it is it's not always about outcomes. You know, it's not always just if you won or lost. And, you know, that's a great example with the Pats 18-0 and the Manningham catch on the helmet. I still think about that, but it's those moments, right? It's not just that final play where you win or lose, but it's everything that led up to that. And I think there are a lot of lessons that we can learn in life and in business, you know, from sports, where it's your journey to whatever it is the culmination of your season or your career or your life. It's all about the little experiences that we have. And for me, it's always a great reminder of the importance of that. And as you see your kids grow up, if you have kids, or anyone listening has kids, you know, there are moments that mark in our minds, you know, certain stages where they develop. And I think sports is representative of that. But I think it's really focused way, right?
Yeah. I appreciate that answer. It's really interesting, and it brings up a couple questions. First, just a little correction. Manningham was actually the second Super Bowl. David Tyree was the helmet catch.
But you're right. I'm sorry.
Please.
I try to forget these games.
You don't have to be sorry to me, Scott. Do not worry. I am completely okay with that one. Gives me a little bit of happiness some other too. So exactly, it's fine. We're all good here.
You're right, David.
I think it's really interesting though. You bring up the analytical nature, and someone might say, "Hey, Vice President of Marketing, brand marketing, right? Your global head, global brand strategy at Maui Gym." I'm excited to get into that aspect. And I think, right, so, you know, analytics, like in sports, has done what it kind of has in marketing, right? Like, it's once we start to get all this data, right? Like, you've watched Mad Men, I'm assuming, or you've obviously seen Mad Men. It was, we're going out, we're having a good time, just make some cute copy, could have pulled a picture on it. That's marketing, right? And now, you know, we're seeing the shift in marketing to be, yeah, obviously there's an extremely important creative side. There's an extremely important, you know, that entire side of the business, but so much more of it is becoming analytical. And I can almost, you can make that connection in sports as well, right? With baseball over the last 10, 15 years, now with football and pro football focus, and now you have, you know, whoop bands on all the hockey players, so you can see, you know, what their heart rate is on and off the ice. So like that part of marketing is really interesting to me. Is that what kind of brought you into the marketing side? Was that purely analytical nature of where kind of the industry, quote unquote, is going?
It was it evolved as I was growing as a brand manager early in my career. So I I started my career with Nielsen on the client service side. At the time, digital marketing was really exploding. This is early 2000s. And we always treated it as a separate vertical within the marketing plan. So you would have your plan, which was driven by print and TV. And then you'd have the digital marketing side, which is completely separate and measurable, which made marketers a little anxious at the time because, all of a sudden you're accountable for
What if we suck?
Exactly. And we're spending millions of dollars. I was on the Nivea brand at the time. We're spending millions of dollars. How do we know that that's actually returning an investment? And suddenly there's a way that pretty quickly whether that's working or not. And certainly that's evolved since then. And now digital marketing is marketing, and you have to be. It's not accountability anymore. It's learning from the real-time feedback that you're getting from consumers to drive decision making. And I think that's the major shift that's changed in marketing, where suddenly everything's measurable, and it's not about creating brand halo anymore. It's now about how are we growing, what's driving the growth, and how do we accelerate that? And you use data to do that.
Before digital marketing, right? So you said the early 2000s is when a lot of this stuff started to explode. Early 2000s, that puts me at like 13, 14 years old, give or take, right? So no offense, just trying
Thanks
to
for
give
making
you
me feel
just,
old.
just a little bit of context, But like
All good.
what was market like? What would a mediums, like obviously Procter and Gamble can buy any commercial that they want, Ford and blah blah blah. What did like
Mhm.
medium and small brands do before digital marketing, right? Like, I mean, there's only so many print ads that they could possibly buy. They're not really able to produce and put on TV commercials like they are a simple TikTok, right? Like, and obviously things are
Right.
different now, but like, what did they do before?
It was a very, very different world. You would run banner ads on Yahoo, and a 0.1% click rate was like
Through the roof.
you just you rocked it, and but what were you driving them to? You didn't know, because we didn't really have the measures on our own website. It was more about creating awareness to get people into Target and Walmart and so forth. So it was I can recall distinctly having publishers come in and pitch us on the value of print and the impressions and the number of subscribers that were going up. Meanwhile, we were seeing all the free subscriptions they're giving out. It was definitely a time of transition in the marketing world, and there was a lot of uncomfortability, if that's a word, on the marketer's side, because they didn't really understand digital marketing. But then we're also getting the traditional marketing channels were getting a lot of pressure to deliver more measurable approaches to market, because that was becoming available. So there were only so many Napster ads you could run, if I'm dating myself a little.
Yeah, you dated yourself on that one. I didn't even bring up Napster, but it was
That was the
revolutionary
thing.
product.
It was right when Facebook was becoming a force in the
Mhm.
advertising world. They just opened up advertising, and that was game changing, and that really set the tone for the next whatever it's been, 15 years.
So you got into brand marketing, and it's always
Mhm.
very interesting. Brand is such a I know it's not a subjective term, but if you ask 10 different people what a brand is, they're going to give you 10 different answers. So I'm curious, from your
Mhm.
perspective, what is a brand and what is brand marketing?
A brand is I'm going to give you the answer you probably don't want. A brand is what it means to you. Mhm.
I think that's a good
Um,
answer.
it's I think there was a day and age, probably the Mad Men days, where it's like, our brand is going to mean this, and we're going to stand for this, and that's what we believe in. That's no longer the case. You do not have, as a brand director, manager, whatever, you don't have control of that anymore. You can only embrace what consumers are telling you, and that's an important lesson, especially for someone who's been in this for a little while, like myself, where if you dictate what you are, um, you're missing out on an opportunity to engage consumers on what they think you are and their perception of you. That could help build community. I think that's an important lesson. I think so another example from my days at Nivea, we sponsored New Year's Eve in Times Square, and we had launched a lip care brand, and it was the kiss of the year, and it was a very it was an appropriate platform for us, given the branding that we had at the time, and it was all about kiss and be kissed, and clearly that was the biggest event around kissing. But a lot of it was just uh, noise in the market, right? You're dealing with so many things on New Year's Eve. Are people really paying attention to NBC? Does anyone care about CeeLo Green performing on our stage? We don't know. So then to try to measure it, you look at retail. Um, Now I think there are many ways in which you can understand the impact of a brand through social media conversations, through, you know, there are so many data feeds that you can leverage to say, am I building a brand that's going to propel growth in the future? Or am I building a brand because of an ideal that I have and I'm really not listening to the consumer? And like I said, that's an important lesson for any marketer that's listening, to step back and understand, is it my agenda that I'm pushing forward, or am I catering to what the consumer wants and needs? Because that's where you're going to win.
How do you differentiate that though, right? Because you think you're doing what's best for the consumer, right? Like that's the whole goal is that I want
Mhm.
them to wear Nivea when they kiss or be kissed, right? Like that's super
Right.
that's the idea, and you're trying to do what's best, what you think is best. So how do you have that North Star without being so attached to it? Like you need a North Star, right? You need a direction to go in. But how do you
Mhm.
have that and be flexible enough to say, hey, like we're actually kind of veering to the left a little bit. Like maybe we kind of check this route out. Like how do you kind of go about that, especially, as high up in positions as you've been where you're the strategizing for all this?
Well, one of the most amazing things about the new digital marketing universe, which it is that you get real time feedback and you can test and test and test. And I tell my team often, the difference between that shade of red and another shade of red, or whatever it is, a guy doing a push up versus a woman planking. Like, we shouldn't spend time debating which one is right. Put them out there. We can get real time feedback, test it very quickly, learn from the data, and then move forward. And if you embrace that kind of mindset, I think there's a lot of opportunity to be nimble and learn, and you'll be more successful quickly. And then that's when you ramp. When you find that success, you invest and you'll see the growth. I think, even harking back to my Nielsen days, there would be a 4 week lag on data, so we could do this big thing in Times Square, and then 4 weeks later, we would find out if it had an impact at retail or not. And if it didn't, we'd have to find reasons why and kind of understand that. If it did, great. That must have been that activation. That's a one time thing, and then we'll plan for it next year. That's no longer the case, of course. And I think that this whole real time feedback is more of an opportunity to learn quickly than it is um, something that's going to prove you right or wrong.
Isn't it wild now that it could take 4 weeks to get that data? And then if it didn't come in the way you wanted it, I'm assuming it took another 4 weeks to kind of come up with the story on why it didn't work. Isn't that always fun? So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
guess you save the company a couple dollars not having to waste 2 months of their life. But it's just
that's right.
it's crazy to me, especially with how quickly things have changed. It's that it is immediate. Like, if something works or not within days. Like, and
Mhm.
sometimes it's less depending, like if your marketing budget is high enough, you can find that out in hours, right? Like it's pretty wild how quickly some of that stuff works. And so I do want to talk about your time at Maui Gym a little bit with like
Okay.
global brand strategy. Like that's a mouthful. That's big. That means a lot. Like Maui Gym is such a cool brand, right? I feel like I'm drinking a cocktail on the beach with my Hawaiian shirt on, right? And that's why I have my glasses on. How do you like
Sure.
how do you come up with like a how much fun does that have to be being able to work for a brand like that? But also like how do you strategize for that, especially in the world of sports where hey, people need to wear sunglasses. Oakley's kind of king of the castle, or maybe I could be incorrect there. How do you kind of carve that niche out with what you're trying to do as a brand as in Maui Gym?
The biggest challenge for us at Maui Gym is we were a global brand for the most part. The marketing leadership resided in different regions and different countries. So you could go to Australia and see Maui Gym as a brand, but your perception of the brand would be, uh, uh, you know, tiki dolls and hula skirts, and
Hmm.
and then you'd go to Europe and you would see a brand that was very geared toward golf and tennis. And then what we were trying to create in the US was a premium lifestyle brand catered to, and after I joined, we discovered the insight, catered to an audience that believed quality of life came from quality in life, right? Which is more of a mindset approach as a marketer versus we're going to be a brand for export, or we're a brand that stands for Hawaii. We were trying to be something that represented the lifestyle that our consumers lived. And so instituting that sort of strategy into those markets where we were already successful was a tall task. Yeah, and you're dealing with local marketing leads in a good way. I mean, it was
Yeah.
it was an aloha culture, right? I mean, it was very friendly, exactly what you think it would be. It was what it was. But trying to take this platform that was global in nature, was the core of the brand, and focused on the pillars of the brand, and bring that to market was really my biggest challenge there.
So you have that challenge, right? And I mean the challenge of just having not a different brand, but a different almost kind of message, if I may. You please correct me where you
Yeah.
need to, in these different markets. Like first off, that just has to be fragmented and time consuming from your part. But then as you said, you found this interesting piece in the US market. How quickly did you realize if it was going to work, right? We're talking about you can figure out something very quickly now. Like, how quickly was it implemented? How difficult was it? As you said, it was your biggest challenge. How difficult was it to do that? And I guess where were some of the pitfalls? Where were some of the things you're like, obviously this isn't going to work here? And hey, we're just going to go back to the way it was, or change what we're doing.
The transition was the hardest part, and not in buy-in, right? It wasn't in getting the country managers and or the marketing leads to buy into, like, this is the strategy, this is the brand. It was more, we've been in market in this, whatever it was in Australia with this kind of display, this kind of branding for 10 years. How do we unpack that when we're dealing with 3,000 independent retailers, where every store is a little bit different and nuanced, and we have to create sort of an entirely new brand positioning and appeal at shelf or at retail? That was the biggest challenge, and doing that in a way that was not just an exercise in rolling it out, but really creating noise around that, and creating programs with each of those retailers to make it successful in the transition, that we weren't alienating the customers. Like, we were very successful in growing aggressively in those countries, but doing it in a way that helped us position the brand the way that I felt we need to be positioned globally, but do it very quickly. And it did take about 2 years
Very quickly, 2 years.
roll that out.
Is that funny? I guess
But it was a roller coaster for
I
sure.
can only imagine. I have a couple more questions. Like, if you are successful in these markets, very successful
Mhm.
as you've been putting it, and I'm not a rest on your laurels guy. We all know if you kind of slow down in the world of retail, in the world of marketing, you're going to get past very quickly. Why
Mhm.
not double down on what was already working, right? If something working is working very well, why did you feel the need to say, you know what, like, we believe that this is, because consumers are different all over the world. So why was there, I guess, that need, if I may, to go in and say, hey, let's change this, even though it's working. Let's go ahead and change this.
A large component of our go-to-market strategy globally was travel retail. So you're inherently getting consumers who maybe from Europe going to Asia, or maybe
Hmm.
from Asia going to Europe. And so for me to truly build the brand in a meaningful way, that consistency was paramount. You had to have an experience with the brand at a retailer at the airport in France that was consistent with what you knew of the brand at home.
Hmm.
If you knew of the brand at home, and we were building from the core, so that became a priority for us. And I didn't think of it as a pivot or a shift necessarily. It was more an elevation of the brand in the minds of consumers. They felt like we were a premium brand that deserved the price point that we were listed at, which was very consistent globally.
And it sounds like even though it was different in all three of these markets, right? Within the US, within Europe, and within Australia, there was still that connection to the quality of life that you were talking about, right? In
Mhm.
Australia, it's not, hey, if you're hanging out with people in tiki torches, or I'm sorry, in tiki skirts, like I'm
Yeah.
sure there's some enjoyment there. If you're in, you're hanging out on a golf course in Europe, I mean, there's some people that's their dream, right? So like that
Right.
quality of life aspect seems like it at least went across all three of those markets, and it was more of a that was the point of connection rather than anything else.
Mhm. And really, we wanted to live up to the expectations set by consumers who either engage with the brand in Hawaii, in Maui, um, or were told by a friend who had done that, had gone through that experience, on the pool decks of the Hyatt in Maui, and tried on the sunglasses and were blown away by the technology. That premium brand appeal had to come through, and in some markets, I don't know that we were delivering on that. So that was really the impetus for the what I considered a fast
Yeah.
change, but it you know
Yeah.
depends on where you
I mean,
sit.
it's the Titanic, right? You're steering the Titanic. It
Yeah,
takes a minute to get to where you're going, and over 2 years to completely change that brand is incredible. So
yeah.
kudos and congratulations to you. So Maui Jim,
Thank you.
awesome, awesome brand. I mean, who doesn't? Again, it's as you said, you put it perfectly. It's an aloha brand. If I see some
Yeah.
guy in a Maui Jim shirt or sunglasses, I'm sure that guy's a good time. I'm sure he's down to hang out for a little while by the pool and talk some sauce. But I'm curious. You had a couple other stops along the way, but now currently with UCAN, you're the vice president of marketing. A lot to do with athlete energy and that nature, health and wellness, right? So slight shift, but I guess I want to hear it from you. What exactly is UCAN? What do you do there, and how are you helping the people?
More than a slight shift, uh, no question. It's we talk about ourselves. I would say we're a scale up company, because we have market adoption, and now it's about aggressive growth and growth trajectory. We've got some backing from major investors like Kellogg and a company called S2G. But what was interesting for me as a marketer was there was this product that um, was designed for a child who had a disease that the founders and the family of the founders, they were trying to cure. And it was something where he had to be fed through a tube every 2 hours, day and night, to stay
Wow.
alive. He couldn't maintain any glucose in his body, and I won't go too deep, but excuse me. But the origins were authentic, and then it was almost like a biotech company. Then they went out and did clinical trials and a lot of research to prove the efficacy of the product, that it could deliver a sustained stream of energy over time. And then I don't know if I should say this or not. My favorite football team, a local women's basketball team in the state of Connecticut in which I live, and many other championship teams started adopting the products as part of their nutrition regimen. And the nutritionists around the teams would uh, ask the players to use it, and they would sort of be like, "What's in this stuff? Why is this working?"
Why
So
does
there
it
were
work so
three.
well?
So there were players on the NFL team who would be like, "What's in here? Like, is this legal? I feel better in the fourth quarter than I did in the first." So there were kind of three things that were proof points for me that there was opportunity here to create a brand and market the products in a way that would get broad success. And so, with the investment from some key players like Kellogg, I felt like we could take this credibility and established credibility with the best of the best athletes in the world, and make something that was more mainstream to compete with Gatorade and Body Armor and Powerade and those kinds of brands in the energy space.
I love the authenticity of that story. I think that's extremely, extremely important. We'll get to
Yeah.
my Alex Guerrero question in a minute because I'm sure you know what it is. But more importantly, how does this go from helping this child, stay alive to yeah, we'll do some research on this. This is kind of cool to
Yeah.
now professional athletes are using it. There's like a couple steps there that I feel like we're missing in between. So I don't know. Again, you said you probably shouldn't say this, so we don't need to go too deep. But like, how does it get into their hands? Was this a couple years down the road where they're like, hey, like this is kind of cool. Let's see what happens, or how does that even like come about?
There was a researcher at Yale. Her name is Kathy Yeckel. Brilliant, brilliant woman. She was brought into the clinical trials and said, you know what? She's a human metabolism researcher. That's her role at Yale. Pretty credible,
Yeah, I'm
expert
gonna believe her.
in the exactly. And she informed the founders of the company, like, you have something here that's really, it's good, not just for helping. They didn't cure the disease, but to help Jonah, the child, sleep through the night, because it delivers energy without spiking blood sugar. That's really the key to our sauce. She recommended we go to the basketball team and the football team and just test it out, and get feedback. And what we saw was, if you take a product that's sugar laden, you're spiking your blood sugar, and then you kind of work through the crash. Right? We've all experienced it. If you drink a cup of coffee in the morning, when that coffee is kind of wearing off. Right? So you had the high of the stimulant, and then you have to rescue your body from that crash. And if you think about performing or pushing your body to the limit in something, like a football player might, for 4 quarters, which is 3.5 hours, which is a long time. By the time you get to the end of the game, you're really rescuing yourself from, like, I'm just going to pull myself together and get through this game and survive it. If we have a solution that can just deliver consistent levels of energy over a course of 2, 3, 4 hours, you don't have to go through that roller coaster. You don't have to deal with that part. You can stay focused, not fight fatigue, and perform at a really high level. And so that was kind of the thinking going into the research, and that has translated into many, many professional teams purchasing product from us, despite some of the other large sponsors in the space.
That's absolutely incredible. Like, not stumbling upon something like this, right? It was born out of necessity, and that it's an awesome necessity, right? As you said,
Right.
like, that's just such a cool way for this to come about. How does that work though? Right? Like, I drink a cup of coffee every day. I limit myself to one. I don't like that 230 coffee, right? I'll have a protein bar, which has way too much sugar in it, but man, they just taste so
Mm-hmm.
delicious. So I'm going to continue to eat them, right? And it's not
Mm-hmm.
bad to have protein, I guess. And like, how, obviously you can't tell us everything, but how does the technology work behind the product to actually allow sustain? Because that sounds like, why am I not having one of those instead of coffee every day? Like, what? Sell me on it, Scott. What are we doing?
Yeah. Well, and that's honestly, that's our biggest challenge. It's a very technical kind of thing that's not top of mind, right? You don't wake up in the morning and go, man, I wish I had more sustained energy in my life. If I could just be balanced throughout the day,
I do say
that'd be
I'm
amazing.
tired though. Every morning I wake up, I'm like, damn, I'm tired. Like, I need
Yeah.
my coffee. Like, I want to go, hey, I want my UCAN instead.
Well, sure, but this isn't something that you could eat one of our bars and you'd be like jolted, right? You're not going to you're not going to feel that stimulant, but 30 minutes later you're going to be like, wow, I kind of feel good. What's going on here? Right? So that instant gratification isn't there. But what it is doing is just giving you a little bit of glucose at a time, so that your body can actually choose between burning glucose, which is carbs, or burn fat. And it creates sort of a hybrid model in your body, so that you're really optimally using your energy stores for whatever it is you're doing, whether it's just focusing on meetings and work you have to do, or if you're gearing up for a workout, you can self-select internally without even thinking about it, so you can perform at a higher level.
Sounds scary. Sounds like you shouldn't eat this at
I,
like 8 o'clock at night though. That would be,
so
tell me.
if you think of the best basketball player in the world who is still playing.
I'll just pick a random guy in my head. Okay. Sounds good.
Okay. Yeah. He uses it before bed because of the slow delivery. It's not a stimulant. It's not going to wake up your system. It's not going to give you jitters. It's just going to give you enough so that when he wakes up, he's not starving, or he's not feeling deprived of energy. He wakes up and he feels good. My son, who's a soccer player, the other night was making a smoothie before bed, and I said, "Oh, throw some of the Superstar or the Live Steady in there, our key ingredient." We used to call it Superstarch, and throw some of that in there. And he's like, "Oh no, I want to go to sleep. I don't want it to keep me up." It's like, it's not going to do that. It's not going to give you any kind of stimulus that will prevent you from falling asleep like you normally would. It's actually going to make you wake up feeling refreshed.
That sounds incredible. I think you just solved like, I don't know, half of America's problems like right there.
So
Like
the
that's incredible.
the challenge we have is I don't have more than 6 seconds to explain that to a consumer or an athlete. I do in this forum,
You
right?
got,
So
I'll give you an
that's the
hour.
work
How's
we're
that
doing.
sound? Yeah.
Yeah,
No, I
that
think
is absolutely the work we're doing.
that is, yeah, it's so true. Everything is 6-second clips now. That's why all the
Yeah,
creative was like, hey, do you have the 6 seconds? I need those for this channel. That's always fun.
yeah.
Man, that is like pretty incredible stuff. Like how so you go from, let's talk about like the marketing journey a little bit with this product. So you go from,
Mhm,
okay, helping not cure disease, but making extremely much easier to live with, right? Shout out Jonah.
mhm.
You start working with some of these athletes. At what point, like, or you start working with some of those teams, how do you then start to get this in the hands of other athletes? How do you start to market this product to this base, right? Like, obviously, you're going to want to get to everybody in America, but if you're
Mhm.
everything to everyone, you're nothing to nobody, right? That's always one of my favorite quotes. So,
Couldn't agree more.
how how do you start to kind of bring this scope down a little bit to professional athletes, to then everyday athletes, to weekend warriors, to hey man, like just take some before bed. You're gonna feel great when you wake up. Cause that sounds
Right.
incredible to me. Like I want to
Yeah.
use this product now. How does that marketing journey happen? Because it's not, again, it's the Titanic. 2 years was a lot, but that was quick for Maui Jim. How do you do this over a sustained period of time to get just like that I guess that trickle down effect, if I may?
Some of it happened by chance and by luck, which is often the case. So I'm the first head of marketing for the company. They hadn't had a chief marketer prior to me joining. It was the founders and a core team of people who most of whom are still with us now, and amazing people. Um, Finding ways to say, okay, we didn't start with this goal, but now we understand the implications. Like, how do we broaden it? There was a chance meeting with Meb Keflezighi. Meb is a marathon champion. He won New York and he won Boston the year after the bombing in Boston. Pretty well known in the running world. And the use case for the product with marathon runners was that if you're running for 2 hours, historically, you might be consuming 25 grams of sugar in a gel form 4 or 5 times during a run.
Whoa.
That's right. So if you think about the exertion you're putting your body through over 2 hours, right? These guys are running insane time, 5-minute miles for 2 hours, and just dumping sugar into their body because they're trying to save themselves from that crash, right? So they're going through that roller coaster. He, in a plastic baggie, trusted the founders enough to say, I will take this before I run the New York Marathon tomorrow. Took it, and he ended up winning. And he was not a favorite. It wasn't so he had never won a major marathon before that. And that was kind of the start of the brand's path into endurance, where you have athletes who are training for long periods of time, consuming lots of sugar over long periods of time, and many of whom ended up being diabetic or diagnosed with diabetes because of the amounts of sugar that they were taking in during their training and during competition. So the brand then said, here's a great opportunity for us. We're going to be a brand for endurance runners, but the application is so much broader than that. And so when Kellogg came in as an investor and the other major investors came in, it was like, how do we broaden the scope of this? Because we can't use, I'll make it up. We can't use Tom Brady holding our bottle after a Super Bowl win because we don't have the rights to do that, right? Or we couldn't, hypothetically use whoever, some NBA champions, because we're blocked. So let's go into running where we have some believers in the product that have just had the race of their lives and do that. And so that's really the opportunity that we have, is to take the awareness and the credibility that we have with endurance runners who know the importance of energy over long periods of time of training, and convince people like yourself that there's a better way to consume energy than relying on a spike and crash from a 5-hour energy or a Red Bull.
Yeah, 5-hour energies, man. They used to be awesome in college. Not so much anymore, unfortunately. Can't
Yeah.
really do the. It's not the same. But I think it's such like, and it sounds very natural, right? It sounds like a hey, like we can't utilize some of these biggest biggest, baddest athletes, unfortunately, because of, these giant league deals, these giant team deals. And you
Right.
guys are a much smaller company. As you said, it was only a few of you. Hard to come up with, I don't know, a cool $100 million, let's call it. Right? That doesn't just happen. But then the
Right.
opportunity to get into endurance running is a great one, because that is a whole community, and runners are crazy, right? Like, they're like, whoa, like, more power to them. I have a friend who actually works at a lot of these marathons, and she's incredible. And the people she works with are incredible. And she says these runners are amazing people. Like, but
There.
man, they're
Yeah.
like a different breed of human being. I say crazy is like, they're so much better than me in just about every way, shape, or form.
Right.
But
Right.
how, like, how do you then make that connection? Because that is such a niche market, right? Like, yeah, however many people run the New York City Marathon a year, however many people run marathons all around the world. I mean, it's like a pin drop in the ocean. I feel like it's not nearly as much as getting on an NFL broadcast or something like that. So how do
Right.
you then start to make that connection? Like, it's probably easy with runners. Hey, just try it. You try the product once, it's going to work. You're going to love it. How do you then
Mhm.
get that next layer of, as you said, the applications are so much broader than running a marathon. I'm never
Right.
going to run a marathon. Mark my words, Scott. I do a 5K every single year. I love that 5K. I will until they stop letting me run it, but I'm
Mhm.
never going to run a marathon. So how do you
Right.
then get someone like me to learn about the product in an organic way, saying, hey man, like, this isn't going to replace your coffee. It's not going to replace your first cup of coffee in the day. I get that. But man, that second cup of coffee, if you take this, you're not even going to want it. You're not going to need it. Like, how do you then replace that second cup of coffee? Because I think that's the challenge at this point for mainstream
Mhm.
America, right?
Mhm. And that became a focus, of course, when that's one of the reasons they brought me on board is we're good in running, we're good in triathlon. Ultra marathoners know the product.
Yep.
We don't have penetration with those, entire communities, but at an elite level, we have the best. And for the folks who follow them and really care about their nutrition and are concerned about sugar intake, we were able to build a consumer base with that. Then I started talking to some folks in CrossFit. Um, Scott Panchik is who's one of the kind of the legends of CrossFit, and I don't know how familiar you are with that group. I wasn't that familiar with it either, but um, he came to us probably 3 or 4 months after the pandemic hit. There was an issue with the CEO of CrossFit and a bunch of controversy. We just said, it's not the right time. Like, maybe, we'll send you product. Thanks for reaching out. He came to us. And 6 months later or so, his wife went through labor, and she's a CrossFitter as well. And she said, the only reason I survived labor was UCAN. Those products got me through it, because we're all natural. There's no reason why she wouldn't be able to take it. And she went through a long labor and credited us, because you can't eat anything either.
Hmm.
So she credited us with like helping survive it. And she said, I don't care if they even pay you, like, just become a spokesperson for that brand. We have a lot of stories like that where athletes are just coming to us and saying, like, how do I get involved here? How can I help? And if you think about CrossFit, when you're doing a 45-minute workout at a very intense level, it's the same kind of thing as running for 2 hours. Their heart rates are up in the 170s, 180s. They're really pushing their bodies to the max. So it's not just, a 25-minute WOD. It's 45 minutes of exertion. And then if you're doing that multiple times a day as you prepare for competition over the course of a week, it's endurance training. It's really what you're doing for your body. So that was a natural progression for us to say, we're good if you're doing a 2 or 4 hour run. We're good if you're training 2 or 3 times a day doing CrossFit. And so that's where we started. And then, of course, at the same time with the pandemic, Peloton,
Mm,
where they have 30, 45
yep.
minute rides, that was starting to explode. Hydro, which
Yeah,
is
the
a
rowing
rowing
machine.
machine.
Yep.
Yeah. Right. Like, there are a lot of people doing very long rows on that. So suddenly it became like not just an endurance running kind of brand, but what are the opportunities with digital fitness that we can tap into and help consumers see the benefits of our product as people were working out more. And so that was a little bit of the migration that took place. And now we're trying to make that a bigger part of our brand.
That is awesome. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. The Peloton one especially makes sense. I mean, I know people that have it. Everybody that I know has one, loves it. So it's I
Yeah.
don't want to join the cult, but I'm like kind of considering it because it sounds like fun too. So like I don't know. Worst things. We'll see if the company's still around in a couple years, I guess. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Exactly.
But
Things have
so
changed a little bit, but
things have changed a little bit.
yeah.
How like so you also work with some like right, we're talking about these specific athletes. You also work with Alex Smith. Like
Yeah.
what football fan doesn't know who Alex Smith is, right? Went to Utah, was incredible. Number 2 overall pick, if I'm not mistaken, had some weird
Mhm.
years, came out, was very good with the Chiefs. Obviously has that gruesome injury
Mhm.
with the Washington football team now,
Redskins.
or
Yeah.
whatever the hell. I don't even know. That's the third name change, whatever. The Commanders. There we go. How did that relationship come about? And like again, was it him like being like, "Hey guys, I really love the product. Can we do something here?" Or was it something where you reached out? I'm curious, especially with athletes at that level. And now he's on TV and just being a broadcaster, which he's very good at
Mhm.
talking, which is nice. So like, how does something like
Yeah.
that happen? Especially like this is a different level now, right? We're in the literal big leagues.
Yeah. Yeah. He's someone who the company's had a relationship with for a while, even pre-injury. When he first left the Chiefs and went to Washington, the team dietitian there, Jake Sokol, introduced him to UCAN, and then he had, of course, the horrific injury. But just backing up for a second, I would say 90% of our athletes on what we call Team UCAN have come to us and said, "I want to be a part of this." It wasn't like
Mhm.
going through a sports agency and we're saying, "Hey, we'll write you a check for X dollars to bring you on board." They've come to us and asked us how we can get involved, and then we figure out what the relationship looks like. With Alex, it was one where he enjoyed the product. He felt like it truly made a difference for him in the second half of games and helped him perform at a higher level. And then with the injury, and I can't imagine, but going through the rehab for so many hours a
Oh
day,
yeah, that's a good
and the
point.
right, and the pain that he's going through, the last thing he wanted was to run out of energy when his body was responding to rehab, and he was just too tired, or he didn't have those energy stores to actually finish a
Mhm.
session. And he became, I don't want to say reliant because the product's not addictive at all, but he really became
Yeah.
a big consumer of the product just to make sure that energy was out of the equation. It just became about his response to the treatment. And so after he retired, he reached out and there was an investment opportunity that presented itself with the company. And he very quickly raised his hand and said, "I want to get involved. I want to help you guys." He believes everyone in the world should know about this product, which is absolutely the kind of ambassador that you want to have, where it's not transactional at all. He went through an experience where, we helped him from a product perspective get through a very traumatic thing. And that authentic relationship, I think, is going to carry us a long way.
I think the bringing up the rehab aspect of it, right? Like so many athletes go through rehab. I mean, recovery is literally a part of any
Right.
elite athlete's day. Like, this whole time you're thinking of it from like, oh, I'm putting out energy because I'm doing X, Y, Z. You kind of forget about like I've never been through their kind of rehabs, and let's hope that I never have to. But the amount of what they have to do, rehab becomes a full time job, right? Russell Wilson, what he did. I don't know if you've got him on the product, but that I mean, sounds like he would love it. But I mean, when he, this past season, when he came back and he talked about how he's rehabbing for like 18 hours a day, which I roll my eyes a little bit. I do like Russell Wilson, but we roll our eyes a little bit. But it's just one of those things. Like if you're constantly putting out that energy to heal yourself, I mean,
Mhm.
there is inherent like burning of energy there, right? It's just one of those things. So like, just it makes sense when you said it. Like that absolutely makes sense, and I could see that
Yeah.
being a huge help in just that aspect as well. So again, just getting more people to understand the product, I think is fantastic. And so so I guess explain the product. Does it come in powder? Does it come in bar form? Like where can I find it? Where can I go buy this? Can you send me some? Like how do we go about finding this about more about the product?
I will absolutely send you some. I
Appreciate it.
don't know if Russell Wilson has used it. I can say 9 of the 14 playoff teams this past year were
Not sure what those
customers
other
of him.
5 are doing, but okay.
They didn't make it. Um,
Oh, all
I could
right.
say that.
There we go. Now we're starting to figure this out a little bit.
um, so we do offer powders. There's our regular energy powder, and then we have a protein plus energy powder, whey and plant options, which are really good. We have whey protein bars and plant-based bars. All of these have Live Steady, which is the kind of the core thread through all of this. That's what delivers that steady energy to your body without disrupting your blood sugar levels. And then just a year ago, April 2nd, we launched a product called the Edge, which is a pre-mixed packet of the Live Steady product in a pouch. That's really, you just tear it open, slurp it down, no sugar, which I've started using before workouts. It's so much easier than a blender bottle. So that's really become our hero product. And we're looking at some innovation around that in the very near future that adds protein to that as well. So really exciting times. We sell direct through UCAN.co, and we're also available through Amazon. And I would also ask your local fitness retailer or running store for product as well.
Very cool. Yeah, that's important. We need to let the people know how. Amazon's super easy, probably better
Yeah.
cut if you go right to the website. But I get so many Amazon gift cards, I'm probably gonna have to buy it there just at least one time. I hope that's okay, Scott. And like, I
Of
guess like,
course.
so you have this one core product, right? You have this incredible, incredible product, Live Steady. How, like, you as a marketer, right? Now you're okay. Well, now we can do it plant based. That's incredible, right? There's a whole subsector of the market that's going to need that. Now you're kind
Mhm.
of just, I don't want to say just, you're kind of packaging it differently, right? Like, oh, you can get it in bar format. You can get it here. How, as a marketer, right? It's still the same core product. How do you differentiate like the differences between them and making sure all the people like how is that does that hold you back in any way, shape, or form?
Great question. We're trying to play toward usage occasions and acceptable product formats for different consumers. So for the CrossFit audience, and I'm speaking in generalities
Yep.
here, they're probably more likely to have a shaker bottle and mix up a smoothie when they wake up before they head to the gym very early in the morning. Whereas if it's a usage occasion where I'm bridging between meals, but I want healthy, efficient calories, just grabbing a bar is very convenient for me. And they taste great too. So it's not, you don't have to sacrifice on that, but it's a good way, like I said, to bridge and not screw up your diet. And then the protein formats are, you get the added benefit of faster recovery with protein, but you're not hangry after a workout where you're undoing all the work you just did by raiding the fridge and trying to satisfy that drop in energy that you just created by working out so hard. So we're focused more on like practical uses of the product and how we can deliver it in the most convenient format versus trying to find new ways to dream up how we can get you to try the product. We're trying to really be consumer minded in our approach and what's going to work best for your lifestyle.
Yeah, I think the bars probably does it for me. Because I have as I said, I eat a protein bar just about every day. They're delicious. And if there's
Yeah.
less sugar, less sugar intake, I don't like I try not to eat too much sugar because we all kind of know it's not that great for you. A little bit's fine, right? Everything in moderation. But those bars, man, it's like I look at it every day. I'm like, do I really need to put 36% of my daily sugar in just this
You
bar
don't.
that's like this big? I really don't think I do. So hopefully we can
No.
figure out a way
Right.
around that.
Yeah.
Man, this has been awesome. Super enlightening, super eye-opening. There is other stuff out there. Hopefully we can do our best to get the message out there because I think it's really important, right? Just drinking coffee all day, right? Like that used to be the thing in the office. It's like, oh, it's my sixth cup of coffee. It's like, what the hell are you doing, man? Like, we got to
Yeah.
stop that. If there's
Yeah.
a way to keep that sustained energy over a period of time without those spikes, as you said, without those crashes, you're not going to do your best work on your way down. Yeah, you might be on fire on the way up, but if the second half of that is you getting pissed off and not really, focusing and not being great, that's not a good thing. I'd rather have that kind of just that steady level. Hey, we're here, we're good. We don't need to do too much anymore. So I think that's awesome.
Exactly.
Anything
If,
else? I think,
if
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say if for anyone who's inclined to try it, I would suggest trying it for 3 days and then don't take the product for a couple of days and just see if you feel different, because it's not a stimulant. You're not going to feel a sudden rush of energy. You're just going to feel, it's almost like a placebo effect. You're like, wait, why do I feel so good? Like, is it just a good day? Did I sleep well last night? But we have clinical research that says it is the product that's helping you feel that good.
So here's a question. How do you kind of combat that? Because, right, people are looking, as you said, instant gratification. People are looking
Mhm.
for that, like, no, I want to feel good. I want to feel good now. How do you get the consumer, like, again, endurance athletes, it's probably very easy. Like, hey, man, try it. You'll hear it. You'll feel it the first shot. Professional athletes. All
Mhm.
right. How do you kind of combat that? Hey, like, as you said, best way to sell a product, tell someone not to buy it, right? So kudos and congratulations to you on that, Scott. You are a marketer. Look at that. But like, how do you combat that in the public eye of saying, like, I know you just said it here, but it's hard to put that in a commercial, right? Like,
It
just
is.
try it for 3 days, then stop trying it, right? Like, don't use my product. How do you put that information out there in a way that people are like, oh, that's interesting. Like, let me see if it works. How does that work?
Well, I've been trying to find the magic bullet for the
Ah,
last 2 years or so.
oh
But
man.
here's what I'll say. I think for the consumer we're targeting now, right, which is not your elite athlete, your podium athlete, we still very much cater to them, and we know the product will deliver on the efficacy that they expect, and we're not changing the product. But for someone like yourself, if I can tell you that you're going to have balanced nutrition for all day energy that doesn't require caffeine or stimulants, I think that's an easier way in for us than to talk to you about stable blood sugar or sustained energy levels or um, things that you may not be top of mind for you. But if I can position it in a way where it's like that sounds intriguing, maybe I'll learn more, or maybe I'll just give it a shot. I think that's going to be the key for us to really opening up the next phase of the company.
Brilliant, man. And hey, it sounds like they got the guy to do that.
Yeah,
Scott
thank you.
Perillo, Vice President of Marketing for UCAN. Check out the product. I'll have links in the show notes for anyone who wants to go check it out. I'll put the UCAN links. I'll also put the Amazon links because everybody's already got the Amazon account. Credit card's already hooked up. I know it's not great for you, not as good for you, but hey, we just want people to try the product right now because I think that's the most important part. So, or where can everyone follow you? Tell us websites. Give us all that information one more time if you don't mind.
It's ucan.co or Amazon/ucan. And then I'm on LinkedIn for anybody that would like to connect and learn more. Would be more than happy to connect.
Love
Thank
it.
you for the opportunity, Michael. Really
No,
appreciate it.
again, this is we just was that the quickest 50 minutes of your life? Like that's what I'm
It
talking
really
about,
was.
man. We're trying to have fun here. So one more time, Scott Perillo, Vice President of Marketing at UCAN. I appreciate you, Scott. I appreciate everyone listening. Your time is the only thing we don't get more of. So thank you to everyone out there for giving me a little bit of yours. Yeah, that's all I got. Thanks everybody. Have a great rest of your day.